Linda. Our next speaker is Greta Hansen, Executive Director at Community Action Coalition for South Central Wisconsin. Greta.
Woo! So, this is really an awesome sign. I saw another sign once that said, no one should have two houses before everyone has one. And it always seems to strike me as something we forget in this society, that it's okay for people to have many houses when there's still a lot of people who have none. And that injustice, that inequity is just, it's really numbing, to tell you the truth. At Community Action Coalition, we get calls every day from people who are living in their cars. They've tried every human service agency, they've called 211, they've tried everything they can, and there aren't enough resources for them to get help and housing for themselves and their children. Each year we get about 15,000 calls at our front desk for assistance. This year alone, up until this point, we've had over 12,000 calls. And that's a lot of calls for people who are saying, I need help with housing, I'm about to be evicted, if somebody doesn't help me with my rent payment, I'm going to be evicted. Is there somebody who can help me navigate the system of trying to apply and find housing that's affordable in this community, because it's just baffling to me. I can't seem to find that system that works. So what we do is we work with all of you and all of these groups to really make an effort to put everything together so that people who are homeless are able to get housing, and more importantly are able to keep it, because shelter is a very temporary solution. It's really a small step in this permanent housing mode that we have to have in order to have people really have stable lives. The single indicator of what is successful for a child is whether or not they have stability in their home, in their housing. Talk to any teacher who is working with a child whose family is homeless, and you know that child is really struggling in school. And that is unconscionable for a society like ours that can provide those very basic needs for our community and still doesn't seem somehow to be able to do that. One of the suggestions and the hopes of the vision is to provide security deposit loans. This would really help fill the gap. At CAC alone, we're only able to help about 10% of people who are eligible to get a security deposit, which is the first month's rent or that cost to put all those things together, first month's rent, last month's rent, sometimes a cleaning deposit and other things. And very often people say, I'm working, I can pay this loan back a little bit at a time, but if I don't get $500 or $600, I'm not going to get this housing. And then they end up having to start the whole cycle all over again, and there really have to be solutions for this so that people aren't faced with this kind of problem. Are there answers for this? Of course there are. Jobs, family supporting jobs. CAC recently completed a needs assessment in the 3 counties that we serve. For the last 10 years, help getting into housing was listed as a very high priority. For the first time this year, having employment that would pay for them to get into housing was listed as an even higher priority. So you see that this employment piece, this ability to find affordable housing. We're right across the street from the YWCA that's working on a wonderful improvement project for affordable housing. Single room occupancy, what units have been torn down and closed and converted into condos and everything else, but the basic, very affordable housing for very low-income people is just never adequate enough to help to keep people off the street. So that's what we're asking for. That's what we're demanding. Clearly, the costs are much less than locking people up. Than talking to a woman that I talked to while we were waiting to start today, who said, I don't know, those homeless people, they just walk around and panhandle all the time, like that's what they want to do with their lives. And so when I talked to her about, maybe it would be different if they had a place to live and a job, she says, they don't want to work, they don't want to work. So there's still that sense here in Madison that is so progressive and really cares about people, that there's still this sense that people want to live in poverty. So part of the vision of this is to get housing for people, and I think we have to do it. We just absolutely have to do it. So thank you for coming and for your efforts in this.
next speaker is Nathaniel Don Abrams Jr., and he's here representing Operation Welcome Home.
Thank you. The affordable housing vision that we have for the city of Madison is, I think, all-inclusive with the services that we would like the city to try to provide. You know, in our press statement we have here, shelter services should be trauma-informed and recovery-oriented. You know, a lot of people were made homeless not by any choice of their own, the economic situation. And for me, being a former homeless person, homelessness is traumatic, to say the least, to have no place to place your feet, to sit back and reflect on how you're going to bring yourself up. It's very inadequate. And this trauma-informed, recovery-oriented model is built upon a solid case management system, so people to know where resources are, who understand the problems that they have. I'm saddened by the administration's treatment of the homeless. There are people who are being put in jail and ticketed and harassed for sitting on a bench or sleeping on a bench when they have nowhere to go. Now, for me, a city's greatness is shown by its treatment of the poor. With this country's economic situation, and winter approaching us, the challenges of the homeless are more traumatic and even life-threatening. Many of our Madison neighbors are hard-hit and traumatized by being made homeless by, like I said, no fault of their own. And let not our inactivity bring more hardship to a life as difficult as it is. Police, with their orders of ticketing, arresting homeless, sleeping on park benches when they have no place else to go. This is absurd. This is really absurd. So I hope the administration will look upon this and find another way of dealing with this. You know, they rearrange the square and rearrange State Street in an effort to put the homeless away, to make him out of sight, say out of mind. And it's like a cosmetic solution to a more profound problem. It's not been addressed. We at Operation Welcome Home are dedicated to the challenges of the homeless person. Because here in Madison and in this country, as rich as we are, with the money that we spend on all other things outside of the country, we can't afford to be least humane to our people. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, that concludes our event. Thank you all for coming out. We'll probably stick around for a few minutes here if you have more questions for us. Thanks.
Housing is a human right.